This is your Channel 10 News. Our Channel 10 staff of Tony Minfield, Cindy Ray, and Joe Potter bring you the local, national, international, and sports news, followed by the market report. And now, the Channel 10 News.
Good evening. From the news events of today, Thursday, July 24th, these stories made the headlines. From Washington, D.C., Justice Department did not tell the White House about the Billy Carter investigation. From Tehran, more military executions today. Here in the United States Virgin Islands, Hess president refuses renegotiation. And in the world of sports, Soviet man gets first ever 10 in gymnastics at Olympics. Tony Minfield will be on tap with the local and regional report after this message.
Leon Hess, the chief executive officer of Havik, Hess Oil Virgin Islands Corporation, and Amarada Hess, has lashed out at Governor Luis for considering a third negotiating team to negotiate with Havik for a tax agreement. In a letter to the governor, Hess said that his company negotiated with two different negotiating committees, the last of which concluded by unanimous recommendation and agreement of all 7 members of the committee, as well as Havik and Amarada Hess. With the passage of a bill by lawmakers yesterday, Hess would have to negotiate with a third committee, and he says that Hess representatives will not negotiate with a third one. Hess suggested that he and the governor discuss the matter fully and frankly if the impasse is ever to be resolved. Meanwhile, Hess said he was led to believe that the agreement arrived at recently had the governor's approval, and he charged that the governor denounced the last agreement publicly without first informing him that the governor was dissatisfied with it. The oil executive also indicated that the governor assumes that Havik will continue to negotiate endlessly, make firm agreements or commitments in the course of such negotiations, and reserves the right to reject any agreement by what Hess termed broad generalizations. He says that's no way to conduct negotiations. Hess noted that the governor publicly stated that it would denigrate his office to participate directly in these negotiations. However, Hess said it wouldn't his as chief executive officer of Havik and urged the governor to sit down at the table and work out an agreement with him. Hess said in the governor's recent broadcast address, he expressed deep concern for the social and economic impact of Havik's continuing to do business in St. Croix. However, Hess said he is equally concerned, and if an agreement is not reached, he'll be forced to shut down the refinery in October 1981, and over 3,000 workers will be unemployed. Striking workers of the Hess refinery contractors held a march in St. Croix on Tuesday. On the steps of Government House, Administrator for Christiansted, Gene Romney, spoke to the strikers who have been away from their jobs for the last 3 weeks. Romney talked with members of the United Independence Workers Union, Felix Francis, Alfred Christopher, and John McKeon, the international representative of North America. According to the administrator, union members relaying their concerns said that they would like for the government to lend a hand in negotiations and hope that the Commissioner of Labor, Richard Upson, would involve himself in the matter. According to the union members, no bargaining has been undertaken as yet. Prisoners in St. Thomas and St. Croix institutions will be able to leave prison for a maximum of 72 hours to seek employment or to visit family members. Governor Juan Luis approved the rules and regulations for the furlough program today. Under the new regulations, prisoners serving sentences for nonviolent crimes would have up to a year remaining for parole would be able to apply to a 3-member committee for furlough. The committee would then determine whether the inmate would pose a danger to the safety of the community and whether his rehabilitation would be enhanced by the program. The Bureau of Corrections would be able to rescind furlough for violations.
by high-level officials. Civiletti told reporters today that the department did not tell the White House about its investigation of the president's brother and his ties to the Libyan government. Civiletti also says there is no evidence that anyone tipped off Billy Carter that the government knew he received money from the Libyans. Meanwhile, Assistant Attorney General Philip Hyman told newsmen that no criminal charges were filed from the investigation because it would be hard to win a conviction. Hyman says the government would have to prove there was a willful violation of the Foreign Agent Registration Law. Senate Republican leaders have agreed with a Democratic plan calling for a 7-member Senate panel to investigate the Billy Carter affair. The panel would be chosen from the Senate Judiciary Committee. Republicans had earlier wanted a large investigative body, but today Senate Minority Leader Howard Baker met with Majority Leader Robert Byrd, and Baker said afterward that good progress had been made toward completing agreement on the issue. President Carter told a group of high school students today that his draft registration program is a minor demonstration of unity and patriotism. And Carter told the members of Boys Nation, a group sponsored by the American Legion, that he'll carry the draft registration through regardless of any obstacles. Federal Reserve Board Chairman Paul Volcker has warned Congress that a tax cut cannot be justified unless federal outlays are reduced. He told the Senate Budget Committee today that Republican tax reduction plans could turn out to be tomorrow's headaches rather than provide election year hope to voters. Volcker also criticized the administration's spending plans for next year as not fully justified. U.S. Attorney David Reedy said today that no federal grand jury investigation of the May wounding of civil rights leader Vernon Jordan in Fort Wayne, Indiana is imminent. Reedy says his subpoena for records of FBI interviews with Martha Coleman, who was with Jordan at the time, is just routine. Family. Sellers died in London early this morning after suffering a heart attack. He was 54 years old. I'm Cynthia Ray. Joe Potter will be right back with tonight's sports report.
The Channel 10 Sports with Joe Potter is brought to you by Cut It 12, Manischewitz Wines, and Potter.wmv.
Women are not the only the perfect ones in the world of Olympic gymnastics. That is, today, Soviet gymnast Alexander Ditchavin became the first man to score a perfect 10 in Olympic competition. The judges gave Ditchavin a 10 in the vault exercise, and that helped him to the gold medal in the men's all-around competition. They told him he was being disrespectful to Lenin by jogging in shorts. You know, the immense popularity that Pabst Blue Ribbon beer enjoys throughout the United States, the U.S. Virgin Islands, and the world can be attributed to one big factor: its great taste. And that great taste comes from patient brewing by the people at Pabst Blue Ribbon beer. So remember that when you next order beer, get Pabst Blue Ribbon beer and enjoy. The Kansas City Kings want the NBA to resolve their compensation dispute with the Detroit Pistons. The Kings signed forward center Leon Douglas last month after Douglas had paid out his option with the Pistons. As compensation, Kansas City offered either center Mike Green or forward Gus Gerard. Both players were turned down by the Pistons. Baseball Commissioner Bowie Kuhn has thrown the Al Hrabowski affair back into the Atlanta Braves' lap. The Kuhn wants the Braves to decide if action should be taken against Hrabowski for his incident with a TV sportscaster, where witnesses say the Braves reliever struck his finger at the sportscaster. Then he swung at a cameraman who was filming the altercation. Braves official says a decision won't be made on what to do until the team talks to Hrabowski, probably tomorrow. An infielder Brian Doyle is back with the New York Yankees. Doyle was recalled today from the Yankees farm club in Columbus, Ohio. He was sent back to Columbus 2 weeks ago after spending nearly a month with the Yanks as a fill-in for Bucky Dent and Fred Stanley. To make room for Doyle, the Yankees have optioned utility man Dennis Worth to Columbus. Worth was batting .286 in a part-time role. And Puerto Rico's Luis Pizarro scored his first victory today in the Olympic boxing competition. The 17-year-old Pizarro scored a third-round TKO over a boxer from Cameroon in the 125-pound competition. There are 3 Puerto Rican boxers entered in the Olympic competition. They are the only United States citizens in the entire Moscow Games. Earlier this week, Jose Molina of Puerto Rico won his first-round bout. In that sports, I'm Joe Potter. Tony Minfield returns now with tonight's weather report.
The Channel 10 Sports with Joe Potter was brought to you by Cutty 12, Manischewitz Wines, and Pabst Blue Ribbon Beer.
Weather for the Virgin Islands and Puerto Rico area tomorrow. Well, the weather won't change much. Skies will be partly cloudy, and we'll have possible brief scattered showers.
I really would hope that they wouldn't be so brief. Now we're beginning to need rain. Do what you can, Tony. Thank you. Good night to you.
Good night, Joe.
Good night to you, Cindy.
Good night, Joe.
And good night to you from Channel 10 News.